Hello and welcome to On the Mat with Lydia, that's me. And whatever has brought you to your practice today, you are very welcome here. Today's class is for holiday presents. So this is a relaxing yin yoga class, which means we'll be doing a lot of longer holds in some of these stretches. It'll be quite chill, quite low key. You'll get the opportunity to stretch quite deeply into your fascia, this connective tissue that runs throughout your body. So hopefully it'll be nice and restorative as you move through this holiday season. Now you will need a couple of props for this practice. Of course, if you don't have them, that is a-okay. It just brings a little bit more support and gentleness into the practice. So we'll be using a blanket and a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, you can also use like a bed pillow as well. So once you've gathered everything, you're all comfy, cozy, ready to go, let's get on the mat. We're gonna start in a nice, comfortable seated position. So if you'd like, you can grab one of your props right off the bat and just come to a nice, comfy seat, lifting your hips above your knees. As you settle into your seat here, take a moment to close down your eyes if that feels safe and comfortable for you. Otherwise, eyes can stay open, just keeping a nice soft gaze just a couple feet in front of you. Perhaps palms land into the lap, or maybe hands rest in front of your heart. Whatever helps you to really get centered, get grounded into this moment. Letting yourself be still for a few breaths as we begin this practice today. And if you haven't already done so, I invite you to bring some awareness to your breath. Your breath being this foundation of your yoga practice. So really noticing each inhalation and exhalation as breath moves in and out through your nose. So that you can start to find this pace of breathing that feels really natural to you. Finding this steadiness through your breath. And perhaps even finding that with each breath you're able to become more present in this moment in your body, on your mat. Knowing that it is, of course, a process to step into this place of presence. So give yourself this time to really be and to breathe. Giving yourself that permission to let go of any thoughts of what has already happened so far today. Letting go of any thoughts of to-do lists or plans to come. Allowing yourself to fully be immersed in this moment on your mat. This is your time just for you. Let's stay for another full breath in and complete breath out. As you're ready, you can flutter your eyes open if you had them closed. Let's move on to hands and knees now. Take your time as you transition. We are going to set up our blanket across the mat just so that we have some cushioning for our knees. So as you lay out your blanket, you can come to kneel on it with that bolster or pillow out in front of you. We're going to start with our child's pose. So set yourself up with your knees straddling your bolster. You choose how far onto the bolster you want to go. It might feel nice to have it kind of all the way under your bum. You might just need it just between the legs. As you find that sweet spot, slowly begin to walk yourself out so that your chest comes down over that bolster. Now, some people will be comfortable just bringing their forehead straight down. For a lot of us, it's going to feel better to bring one cheek onto the pillow or bolster. And let's stay for a few minutes here. If you are resting on one cheek, I'll let you know when it's time to switch over to the other side. But getting right into our yin practice here. And the hallmark of our yin is that we have these really long holds in our postures. So we stay for longer so that we can stretch into those deeper tissues of the body, as I mentioned earlier. That's kind of the physical side of things, right? Is that deep stretching, that deep relaxation of shifting into that parasympathetic nervous system state. But I'm sure you'll notice as we stay longer and longer in these holds that there's a deeper element to this practice of yin. So it's not just getting into your physical body, but there is some mental challenge that comes into it, right? There's a lot that will come up for you as we try and stay in stillness. And that's why today our practice is presence, bringing yourself back time and time again to this present moment. So basically we're doing a moving meditation today. If you're resting on one cheek, please slowly switch sides, dropping your other cheek onto your prop. And we have about another minute here. Now it's important to note that because we are staying longer in these postures, it means that we're not going for the deepest, fullest expression of each pose. Right, so we don't need to kind of force our bodies to get really deep into these shapes because we're staying for such a long time. Instead, we want to find that spot where we're just feeling the sensation. In this case, probably a stretch through the back, maybe the hips. Finding that sensation, finding a place where we can kind of hang out in it, and then letting the time here be what takes you deeper. Just a few more breaths here. Seeing if you can really enjoy these final few moments, relishing the stretch in this shape. And with your next inhale, slowly bring yourself back through center and start to lift up away from your prop. Really take it slow. Awesome, you can set that bolster or pillow off to the side. For now, we'll come back to it. Let's recenter ourselves onto the blanket so we have that nice cushion for the knees. And then from a tabletop here, let's start to walk the arms forward. So reaching your arms out, chest will start to melt down towards the floor, moving towards our puppy pose here. So in that child's pose, we got more of a stretch for the back. Now we get to balance that out with a stretch for the front body. Letting yourself as best you can melt down into this shape, knowing you have support coming from the legs, coming from the palms. Now we're here for another 20-ish rounds of breath. So if at any point this gets really intense, painful, or uncomfortable, please know that you can always back out, come out of this shape a little bit more. You might even just bring it back to a tabletop position and take a few rounds of your cat-cow instead. That is a-okay. You always have options. Now, as I mentioned, part of this practice in particular today is really giving ourselves the opportunity to be present, which of course is always part of our yoga practice in some way, shape, or form. But especially when you are confronted with these longer holds in stillness,
it can become a little bit more difficult to kind of rein everything in, bring yourself back to the present. So how do we do that? How do we come back to the present moment? Of course, the number one answer would be your breath. Just like we started our practice, coming back to noticing your breath, maybe even counting your inhales and exhales. For example, we have 8 more rounds of breath here in our puppy pose. So maybe you count, inhale 1, exhale 1, inhale 2, exhale 2. Just like that at your own pace. That's an option for you if you want it. Helps to keep your mind focused on the breath, on the counting, so that your mind doesn't start to wander elsewhere. Now we're almost through with this hold in our puppy pose. Take a little extra notice of the sensation around your heart, the space between your shoulder blades. And as we transition, as always, please take it slow. Let your body readjust. From your puppy pose, you're going to take your next inhale to press through your palms, lift your belly button, start to come up out of that deep back bend, and then walk your hands back towards you. If it feels nice, you can sit back for a moment and kind of roll out the shoulders, roll out the wrists. Might feel nice to take some pressure off of the upper body for a while. And then as you feel good, we're going to come back onto the palms, tabletop position. Let's take 3 rounds of our cat-cow to recalibrate. So inhaling to lift your heart, lift your gaze. And exhaling to tuck and round. Inhale into your cow. And exhale into your cat. Slow, sweet movement as you inhale here. And exhale. Beautiful. Please inhale back through center, tabletop position. And then swing your feet around to one side. Sit your hips down. And let's come to seated on the mat. Awesome. Take a moment to reach your legs out long. Give them a little shake, a little wiggle if that feels nice. Lovely. Let's bend into the knees, plant the feet nice and wide, and take a little windshield wiper action side to side. Been doing a lot here into the upper body, the spine, so let's get a little bit more into the legs. As you move the knees side to side, notice any sensations that might be popping up for you, especially around your hips, but even into your low back, your spine, your shoulders. Awesome. And let's slow down this movement. Bring your legs back through center. As you come through center, soles of your feet will meet. Knees will open out wide. So option to sit up on your blanket as I'm doing here just gives a little lift of the hips to help you center out through the pelvis. If you so choose, of course, you can just sit flat onto your mat. We're going to reach for that bolster or pillow. It's going to come in front of us as some extra support as we bow forward in this pose. So for a bound angle, you can either do, as I'm doing right now, have the bolster laid out over your feet. This may be something that you come all the way to lay down on as you fold. It may just feel like nice weight down on the legs to keep everything a bit heavy. Now, another option would be to place one end of your bolster into the floor, either in front of your feet or on the inside of your legs. And then your forehead can rest on the other end of that bolster. Hands can relax down. So you choose your own adventure, maybe keeping this propped up version just here, of course not getting as deep into the fold. If you so choose, bolster comes down and chest can melt. Now, you don't necessarily have to come all the way onto the bolster again. Remember, we're not going for the deepest version. You don't have to force your body deep into these poses, but let yourself find that spot that feels good. For me today, I like having the heaviness of the bolster pressing down on the feet, reminding me to stay heavy through the legs. So even though I'm not going to come that deeply into my fold today, I'm going to keep that there as a reminder. So you choose where you want to go, and let's settle in, feeling that hinging from the hips start to bring your chest forward any amount. Perhaps your eyes close. Maybe your chin drops towards your chest. And we'll be here for about 2 minutes together. Remember, during that time, if you need to readjust at all or even come out of this shape, you are welcome to. You may notice as well that you have kind of a starting position in the pose. Then over the course of the breaths that we take here, you may naturally find yourself dropping in a little bit deeper. Now, another way that we can really bring ourselves back into this place of presence is by paying attention to the sensations in your body. So in this shape in particular, you might really be feeling a lot going on around your hips, your lower back, maybe even some conversation around your joints, like your knees. You may even be able to feel all the way into the soles of your feet, into your toes, really deepening your awareness as you hold here for a little bit longer. We have about another 8 rounds of breath in this shape. Now, in addition to coming out earlier, you also have the opportunity to stay for longer. You can always pause the video and just hang out for a little while longer if this is feeling really good for you today. Noticing where the sensations are popping up. Acknowledging whatever you find without the need to label anything as good or bad, without any expectations of what you may find. And let's finish out here with 3 breaths all together. Inhaling through your nose. Exhaling through your nose or mouth. Another inhale here. And exhale. Once more, breathing in fully. And exhaling completely. Enjoying this transition, taking your time as you slowly begin to rise away from your prop, coming back to a nice tall spine, moving that bolster, that pillow out of the way. As you gather your legs together, use your hands to help. Maybe it feels nice to stretch your legs out long for a moment, give them a little shake, a little wiggle, a nice release. Beautiful. And when you're ready, let's re-bend the knees, plant down through the soles of the feet. Take a moment to wrap your arms around your legs. Bring your chest forward towards your thighs. Drop your chin to your chest. And just breathe here, wrapped up in a nice big hug. Full breath in. Complete breath out. Again, inhale here. And exhale. Once more, inhale. And let it out. Exhale. With your next breath in, slowly rise back up. Nice tall spine. Let's keep that left knee bent. Slide your right heel back towards your left glute. So I'll show you real quick from the front what that's gonna look like. Drawing that right heel in so your knee will be bent pointing forward. Then that left foot is gonna cross to the outer edge of your right thigh, setting ourselves up for a twist here. Now, one final note before we do twist, if this is bothering your right knee at all, please lengthen that right leg out instead. I'm gonna do this seated up on my blanket. Again, just giving me a little bit of extra space by lifting the hips up. You're free to join me. Let's take an inhale all together to sit up nice and tall. As you exhale, take a twist, turning your heart towards your left knee. Maybe left fingertips walk back behind you, perhaps right arm hugging that left knee. As you find some space across your chest, some release through the spine. Not quite so long a hold in this one, just about a minute here. Taking a few slow, steady breaths. Noticing the sensations in this shape. You probably feel a little bit different from when we were drawing awareness to how we were feeling in that forward fold with the feet together. And remember that whatever you find throughout this exploration is really just gathering information. Getting to know yourself a little bit more, little by little. It's not something that we explore so that we can judge ourselves in any way. It's not something to force us to get deeper into these shapes or look any certain way in our yoga practice. Really, this awareness is a way to invite in more permission, more gentleness, more ease. It's not always easy, but that's why we keep coming back to the mat. Let's take another inhale here. As you exhale, slowly unwind your twist. Come back through center. Now we're going to keep the legs as they are, or I should say that bottom leg as it is. That left foot is going to keep walking towards the outer edge of your mat. So you're going to walk that foot all the way until your knees start to stack, finding our Gomukhasana, our cow-facing legs. Now, once again, if this is feeling uncomfortable for your knees, you can always straighten your bottom leg. If it's still feeling a little bit crunchy, then you can always cross your shins instead. That's still going to give you a stretch into the outer left hip, which is really all that we're going for here. So as you sit up nice and tall, once again, feel that stretch through the hips. Get heavy down through the tailbone. Maybe stay seated, lifted tall, or take an inhale here. And exhale, begin to fold forward any amount. Again, not staying for too long in this one, just about a minute. Breathing into the sensation there in your outer left hip. Hopefully this feels like a sweet release, especially if you've been spending a lot of time in the car, driving from shop to shop or house to house. Even if you have been doing a lot of running, walking, cycling, lifting, all of this puts a lot onto the hips. So it's always a beautiful experience to get into the hip space, to find a little release. Letting yourself be present with whatever that release is feeling like for you today. Sometimes it is a little bit more confronting than other days. And let's take 3 more rounds of breath here on this side. Breathing in through your nose, out through your nose or mouth, that's up to you. And with your next natural inhale, slowly rise. Nice tall spine if you are folding. Let's rock back onto the hands so that we can uncross the legs. Stretch your legs out nice and long for a moment and give them a shake to release. Lovely. And then we'll try the other side. So let's rebend the knees, plant the feet to begin. This time, right foot will stay planted as we slide that left heel in towards the right butt cheek. Let that left knee fall open. And then right foot is going to cross to the outer edge of your left thigh. So nice twisty leg variation here. Again, you can always straighten that bottom leg if you so choose. Making sure wherever you are that you can really root down through those sits bones, those bony points in your booty. Another reason it can be nice to have a prop underneath you, just to give you that little bit of extra lift and support. Now, once you feel ready, let's take that inhale to sit up tall. Use your exhale to twist towards your right knee. Now, first few breaths, yours to settle in. Adjust where you'd like to place your hands. Make sure you feel good with the leg placement, all that good stuff. Get that sorted out in the first few breaths. So then the rest of the time here, you can really sink into stillness and breathe with it. So once you do feel steady, perhaps your eyes want to close if they're not already. Breathing down into your hips, your pelvis. Feeling that heaviness through the lower body, that grounding, keeping you rooted to the earth. And then sending your breath up the length of your spine, up into the crown of your head, to feel that lightness through the upper body. So by creating that stability down through the legs, you create space for some movement, some lightness up through the torso. And we have about 5 more rounds of breath to explore this twist on this side. Remember, each side will be different. We are naturally quite asymmetrical beings. So try not to be too alarmed if you do find that things feel different on one side versus the other side. Breathing down into the hips and then up the length of your spine. And we have one more full breath in here. As you breathe out, slowly unwind your twist, bring it back through center. Bottom leg stays as it is. That right foot will start to walk nice and wide towards the outer edge of your mat. Beginning to stack your knees, your legs into our Gomukhasana. Staying heavy down through your hips. Take an inhale to sit tall. Stay right here or exhale and bow forward any amount over your legs. As you arrive for about a minute here, Can you reconnect once again to that heaviness down through the lower body? And this time we're going to keep that breath through the length of the spine, but feel how it might feel a little bit different now that the spine is reaching forward rather than up. So continuing to find that same length, that same expansion as you breathe through your central channel, but perhaps a slight shift just as we feel that change in position. It's these subtle things that we can become aware of in our yoga practice that often serve us not just on the mat, but off of the mat as well. We're about halfway through this hold on this side. Breathing into that outer right hip. Breathing into that sensation. If it at any time becomes painful, sharp pinching in that right hip, remember you can always lift out of it or come to that crossed shin position instead. Almost done with the hold on this side. Notice where your mind is right now. Often when we're given some space and silence, that's when the mind wanders the most. So far we've been in conversation for most of the class, but I'll start welcoming in a little bit more opportunity for that silence as we keep going. Just so you can explore where your mind wanders and how you can bring yourself back to presence. For now, let's take an inhale here and exhale out. Use your inhale to rise, take it slow. Rocking weight back into the palms as you unwind. Stretch your legs out, give them a shake. Lovely. Let's set ourselves up with our bolster once again. We have one final pose before we settle into Shavasana today. This time that pillow or bolster is going to be nice and long on your mat. So along that long edge of your mat. I'm going to scoot my blanket up to the edge of my bolster. This is just optional, adding a little bit of comfort if you want it. We're going to sit so that our tailbone is pressing right up against the base of that prop. And then slowly use your hands for support as you lower yourself down. So remember, first few breaths are yours to make any micro adjustments, get yourself settled. So as you lay back, feeling that your lower back is not on the bolster. So your tailbone, your booty is still down on the floor. And then you're being supported along the length of the spine by your bolster. Now it might feel good to keep your feet planted as you arrive. That's just going to help to kind of stretch through the low back a little bit more to give some support there. If it feels good for you, you can stretch your legs out long instead. Arms can rest wherever they feel natural. Perhaps arms come out by your sides, palms face up. And let yourself really take up space here as you open into this supported fish pose. We'll be here for about 2 more minutes together. So perhaps your eyes can close if they haven't already done so. Perhaps you can start to settle a little bit more into stillness, letting go of any little wiggles or twitches that want to happen in the body, and giving yourself permission to be still. And as I mentioned, I'll be giving us a little bit more space for silence,
which can be a little bit tricky when we're practicing from different places online. But trust that your internet is not broken, the video has not paused, or hopefully it hasn't. But we're just giving ourselves a little bit more of that space, a little bit more of that quiet. I'm still here with you every step of the way, and I'll still be coming in with little reminders here and there. And it's just about another 90 seconds in this shape. Unless, of course, you'd like to stay longer today. Where are your thoughts in this moment? No judgment. Simply noticing, have you stayed with your body, with your breath? It's a practice, so it doesn't have to be flawless. Naturally, your mind wants to wander. That's what it does. Our meditation is simply to keep bringing ourselves back, to keep coming home to ourselves. Whether that is through counting your breath or staying with that awareness of sensations in your body. Perhaps it even helps to really become aware of where your body is inhabiting your physical space. So the parts of your body that are touching the earth, the temperature of the air around you, these little things that keep you here. We have just about 3 more rounds of breath here in this sweet back bend. If it feels really good to be opening your heart in this way today, of course, you are more than welcome to stay longer. Let's take this last breath all together. Inhaling through the nose. And exhale, let it out. As you're ready, please begin to rebend your knees, plant your feet if you're not already there. Ever so gently roll to one side. So rolling off your bolster, that top hand will catch you and press yourself up to seated. Lovely. Let's set ourselves up now for our Shavasana, our final posture of the day. So you have a blanket, you have a bolster, you have options. Your blanket can always be used as a blanket to keep you warm. You can also use it as a pillow, just placing it underneath your head, giving you a little bit of extra support there. Your bolster can be used underneath your knees to help bring a little bit of relief for your low back. So as you come to lay down, you'll bring your knees over the bolster. Now you can either have your bolster low or high. That's really up to you. And then start to lay yourself down as you're ready. If you're using your blanket as a pillow, see if it feels better to have your shoulders on the blanket or just off of the blanket. And then let yourself settle in. Bolster resting under your knees, maybe no bolster needed for today.
Maybe you have a totally different variation, a totally different shape that's really calling out to you today. Of course, feel free to go there. And let's relax into this shape as best you can. Letting your body be heavy, your weight supported by the earth. Letting your breath be steady just as we've cultivated throughout this entire practice. And giving yourself permission to simply be. This is your time to really integrate everything you've done on your mat today. To soak in all the sweetness that your yoga practice has to offer. And this is where I will leave you for today to really enjoy. I wish you the happiest holiday season. And thank you so much for taking this time to meet me on the mat. Until we meet here again, be well.